Welcome to part 6 of our live training session here with our FD RX7. In our last video, we started the calibration process for full throttle tuning. We turned off the boost control and we focused just on the wastegate actuator level. We built out our fuel and our spark timing tables, and we used the knock control to guide us in making our spark timing changes. Now we're ready to turn on our boost controller and go into closed loop boost. I'm going to show you how to set up your boost targets, how to set up the PID control, how to set up our feed forward base wastegate duty cycle table so that we have boost control implemented successfully in the closed loop method. We have a lot to cover. Let's jump into our video here so we can get started. Welcome back to our live training session here with our FD RX7. In our last video, we started our full throttle calibration process. We have everything nailed down for fuel and spark timing on our wastegate spring level, the actuator level. This is an internal wastegate assembly here. We have on our EFR turbo. It's a TurboSmart Gen 5 internal wastegate assembly. We have about a 12 or 13 pound spring. So we're hitting around that in our boost pressure. Now we're ready to turn up our boost. So we need to get the previous step in place, the previous calibration process in place, where we're tuning off low boost, the lowest boost we can get to, which is going to be the wastegate spring level or wastegate actuator level. Now we're ready to go higher than that. We're going to be looking at implementing a closed loop boost routine in this video. I'm going to show you exactly how to accomplish that so that if we target a certain amount of boost, we can just have the Haltech go in and change the duty cycle to get to that boost. Now we have to do some legwork on our part in order to get that sorted out. So in this video, we're going to be getting our boost turned up, making more power. We need to go through and make sure the fuel and spark timing are still safe and we have no knock and all the things go along with it that we had in the last video. But now we're adding another layer here, which is our boost control. So first thing I want to do here to begin this video off is actually go in and calibrate and set up our oil pressure fail-safe protection table. Now we didn't do that in the last video. We were dealing with a lot of different things and talking about all the various tuning aspects with a rotary engine, and I just forgot to include it in that video. But we have our log data from that last data log open here, and we want to take a look at this. So if we go here to into channels, and I'm going to go and delete all of my channels and then bring in just my engine RPM. So we can see right here, engine RPM. Let's look for oil pressure here too. We should have that in here. We are logging it. We have an oil pressure sensor. I know I have been watching the oil pressure as we've been tuning, but I haven't been necessarily paying super close attention to it. I know we have at least 50 pounds of oil pressure and higher, which is fine. But now let's do an analysis of what's going on with the oil pressure. So we can use this in our fail-safe table. So we can look down here at the bottom under oil system. We have an oil pressure minimum. This is the minimum oil pressure we're going to allow the engine to run at before it goes into the fail-safe mode, which is a level 3. We've set it on our fail-safe protection with this Elite 1500. And if we get into the situation where we drop below that oil pressure for a certain period of time that we've labeled here in our DTCs, we can see that's going to be grayed out right now. That'll kick it into the oil pressure fail-safe protection. So what we're going to do here is start to populate some oil pressure readings. We know that our oil pressure here was on a warm engine, and the oil temperature would have came up to operating temperature here. So if we jump into the VE table here, the VE tab, we can see what the oil temperature was showing here, and that's 147. We have oil pressure right here. So if we're looking at the beginning of a run, we're at roughly 2,000 RPM. We can see here we're around 64 PSI of oil pressure. Let's actually go here and bring this table up here. Let's go and populate this. I'm not going to go and have it at 64. I'm going to allow it to go all the way down to something like 30 PSI of oil pressure. So I usually have a 20 or 30 PSI variance between what I'm measuring here on a warm engine for my oil pressure and the minimum, the lowest I'm going to allow it to go to. So at 1,000 RPM, I don't know if we have that at idle here. That looks like right at idle, roughly 1,000 RPM. We're building here about 44 pounds. We'll set this to something like 15 pounds of oil pressure. At 0 RPM, we want to make sure this is 0 so that it doesn't cause any problems for us trying to start the engine when we have no oil pressure built. Now at 3,000, let's move up here in our RPM scale a little bit. So we're going to go and toggle up to about 3,000. We see right here at 3,000. Our cursor's right here at 3,000. Notice our oil pressure showing 103 PSI, so that's a huge amount. If it's 103, I'll say I won't let it go anything below 45 PSI. That should be fine. Going up here a little bit further, let's get at 4,000. We can see we're at 110 PSI of oil pressure. Let's say 55 PSI. Let's go up a little bit higher yet. Let's go to 5,000. We see 118, that's 120. We'll go to 60 PSI. So I'm going about half of what my oil pressure is showing. That's a lot of oil pressure, but this particular engine is built and set up to have oil pressure like that, so that's okay. We can see here at roughly 6,000 to 7,000, we're about 120 pounds of oil pressure. So we'll set these at 60 PSI. So now, if our oil pressure drops for whatever reason below our threshold here, it'll kick in to the failsafe feature under level 3 of severity. So let's just quickly take a look at that. This is another layer here. Let's click cancel. It's probably not allowing us to see any of this because we have our log open. So let's. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.